Now, a topic of discussion for Wolves fans over the last few days has been the season ticket pricing. Of course, when we approach the final stretch of the season, this is always a talking point. Wolves fans spend their hard earned money to watch the football club, and unfortunately, over the last few years, we have not seen value for money at Molineux. Today I'm going to be looking at why this discussion has sparked again, why fans aren't happy at the moment, and what Fosun need to do to keep fans or get fans back on side ahead of next season. So since joining the football club, Nathan Shei has obviously had a lot of tidying up to do. There's a lot of things that went wrong under the previous regime, which he will have to sort. And he has spent some time meeting with different areas of the football club, staff, and of course fans as well. He's had separate meetings now with the Wolves Trust, the Wolves Fan Alliance, which I'm part of, which is the fan groups themselves, and most recently the Fan Advisory Board. Now, some of the comments that were included in the minutes of the most recent FAB meeting is what has caused discussion and controversy over the last few days. Now, very quickly, for those who aren't aware of the FAB or the Fan Advisory Board, it was put together by the football club as sort of an official fans board made up of members of a few different groups to represent different areas of the football club, and it started at the beginning of the 23-24 season. This gives a certain profile of fan the opportunity to speak to the club directly and give their point of view as a supporter. And of course, this has been quite vague, and probably not a lot of people know about this because the minutes and the meetings in general have been very, very quiet, and you would have to do a little bit of digging and searching to even find minutes from the last meetings. So during the last couple of months or so, with the fan groups and the trust as well, we made it pretty clear that these sort of minutes, official confirmation and communication with the club need to be published and a lot easier to find, which Wolves have done. They shared it on their social medias and it was on the front page of the Wolves website. And I was happy to hear that ticket pricing and the structure of tickets was a hot topic of discussion throughout this meeting. It had senior members of the football club there, including Nathan Shei. However, the one comment that Wolves fans are concerned about is how Nathan Shei had ended that topic of discussion. It's on the screen now. Nathan acknowledged the strength of feeling and confirmed that no final decisions have been made. He stressed that pricing must be considered as part of a longer term strategy rather than a single season reaction, particularly if the club is targeting an immediate return to the Premier League. He also noted that communication around any pricing structure must be handled carefully while the team is still competing this season. Now, from such a short sort of couple of sentences there is still quite a lot to unpack. A lot of people will see that and be concerned, especially by the long-term strategy and the Premier League comment. You could read that as if the prices that we're going to be paying next season could still be Premier League prices, despite Wolves more than likely being in a lower division. Now, if I pause that there, I've already had it confirmed by various sources that season ticket prices will drop for next season. However, by what percentage and by what amount at this current stage, I don't know. Now, I know a lot of fans are frustrated because that potentially does read that tickets will be frozen or in some cases possibly go higher, which just cannot happen considering the quality of football will drop off. The quality of football at Molineux has dropped off. And really, ever since Jeff Shei rose the prices at the start of last season, it has been an utter disaster on and off the pitch for Wolves. Now, do Wolves fans need to be compensated? I would say yes. Now, there's so many different ways and avenues for Wolves to do so. What I would say firstly on this, now there has been a lot of people messaging me. I probably get messages every other day or at least a few times a week. I have constant communication with the other fan groups, the other podcasts, and as you can imagine, there are some very, very passionate. There are some people pushing again for demonstrations, protests, boycotts. I'm not completely on board with that yet. We've been there, done that. We've got Jeff Shei removed from his position. But I think this is a video, and I'm sure other creators will put out statements and videos to reiterate what we said to Nathan Shei and the club when we met them I was there and I sort of really put pressure on the club to commit to lowering the season ticket prices. Now, at the time, I appreciate Nathan Shei had only just come into the role, and it probably at that time wasn't in an area that he looked into so much. Now this is probably the third or fourth meeting he's had with different fan groups, different parts of the fan base, and everybody is saying the same thing. They have to take this on board. If Nathan Shei and Fosun get this wrong, the ticket structure and the pricing, they will lose a hell of a lot of fans. They will lose any respect, and they will completely burn bridges with those who are on quite an unstable and wonky bridge of a relationship between themselves and the football club and Fosun already. Now, I really hope it's not just a 30, 40, 50 quid reduction. This needs to be a high percentage. I'm talking, at least 10, 20% off what the current prices are at a minimum. Now, I'll look at some figures in a minute just to do some comparisons, just so you guys can understand where Wolves need to be, in my opinion, as well. And in my opinion, the club at the moment, especially with that quote that Nathan Shei said, are putting so much pressure on themselves to bounce back next season at the first time of asking. In the meetings we had, they said, they're going to make a pretty good go, and, they are very confident that Wolves, come the 27-28 season, will be a Premier League club again. Whether that's us staying up this season, which of course is completely, in my opinion, out of the picture now, or obviously going down and coming straight back up. They're putting a lot of pressure on themselves there. Nathan Shei says they want to act like a Premier League club. He said this again now in this statement there. What I do sort of appreciate from his point of view is that if Wolves went out publicly now and said, right, these are going to be the prices next season because we're playing Championship football, what message or what type of message and signal does that send out to fans, to players, to rival clubs? If Wolves put out the prices as of today, right now, for next season, that just shows they have been defeated. That's them holding up the white flag saying, yeah, we're done for. As a football club, as a professional organisation, you cannot admit defeat, especially before we've got that R next to our name, that relegation confirmed. Once that's done, that's when they can put the prices out. What I hope Wolves don't do, though, which Jeff Shei has done before and the club have done before, they will release the season ticket prices after the final home game, so there's no way there's any backlash or anything. But we have shown as a fan base, as supporters this season, we can be heard, we will be heard, and if we need to, we'll make a fuss and make Wolves look like the absolute idiots that they have been off the pitch and on the pitch for the last couple of years. We did it before when Jeff Shei rose the prices. Thankfully, there was a small win where he froze certain elements of the ticket pricing and the structure. That was national news at the very least. The boycott recently was worldwide news, which I have full belief that, although it wasn't the be-all and end-all of Jeff Shei's reign at the football club, that had a huge impact on his position at the club overall. This is serious. This is a big decision for Fosun to make. Now, like I said, they will be cheaper, but by how much? Now, I'm going to quickly look at some prices for Championship clubs, compare it to where Wolves have been and will possibly be. But surely this is in the best interest of Fosun and Nathan Shei to have a full Molineux next season. Surely. If you're upping those prices or keeping them the same level or just a tiny discount, Wolves fans will not renew. There'll be a huge percentage of fans that do not renew, and you will likely have gate receipts or attendances, of between 20, 23, 24,000 at a push, I would say. That's a huge drop off of fans. Whereas if you do it at a reasonable level, you can get Molineux to back to 28, 29, 30,000 in the Championship, have a full team of support, and that is what we want as fans. Now, in terms of figures, this current season in the Championship, the cheapest adult ticket in the Championship at the moment, according to Yorkshire Post, is Queen's Park Rangers at £262. The most expensive, cheapest season ticket is at Norwich City. Their cheapest season ticket is £567. Now, I've also put a couple of teams who I would say are relative stature and local area to Wolverhampton Wanderers. Birmingham City, their cheapest season ticket is £320. Stoke City, £344. Leicester City at £404. And West Bromwich Albion at £419. As it stands for Wolves at the moment, the cheapest season ticket behind the goals at Wolves is £735, which of course is much higher than the Norwich's ticket at the moment. If you want to include the Graham Hughes stand, which is barely a stand at this point, it is £525. If I use West Bromwich Albion as that sort of mark again, so they're on average their season tickets for an adult high end is about £539, which I think Wolves have got to be looking at really. And Jeff Shei in particular used this benchmark. At the moment, our season ticket prices are benchmarked against Aston Villa's. Aston Villa, who are competing in the top 4 of the Premier League and are in European football, have a similar season ticket price structure to Wolverhampton Wanderers, who, as it stands, could be the worst or one of the worst Premier League teams to have existed since the Premier League came into fruition. Now, looking at Wolves' season ticket price from when we first came up, the first season we were back in the Premier League under Nuno, the behind the goal season ticket price was £449. So we've seen in around 7 or 8 years an increase of almost £300. Now, I know there's inflation, I know there's things like that, but that is not acceptable. Wolves need to seriously consider these prices. And finally, to reiterate my point even further, the Wolves 1877 Trust, who had over 459 responses to a survey that they put out on season ticket pricing recently. Now, this is a mix of season ticket holders and non-season ticket holders, because the Trust is full of supporters up and down the country in different nations as well. But this gives you a decent sample size of what fans are thinking currently, and I believe this has or will be sent to the football club very soon. Should home ticket prices fall if Wolves are relegated? 98% of people said yes, they should fall. Among season ticket holders, would you renew if the prices do not fall? The majority of 53% said they're very unlikely or somewhat unlikely to renew if the prices did not fall for next season. The match attendance likelihood, if the prices do not fall, 68% said they are less likely or very unlikely about attending as often if the prices do not fall next season. And now in terms of reductions, 25.65% of people think there should be an 11 to 20% reduction. 34%, almost 35% of people think there should be a 21 to 30% reduction, and 21% of people believe there should be a 31 to 40% reduction in the price. And asked about single ticket match day prices, currently behind the goal in the Stan Cully stand, it's around £39 for a match day ticket on average. Again, fans on this survey said they wanted, more than likely, almost 80% of the fans said a £21 to £30 range for the tickets for next season. And the current pricing is currently widely viewed as way too high for Championship football. Like I said, this is a huge decision. In terms of timings, it's very, very difficult for Wolves. I'm sure they will want to get a message out sooner rather than later. I'm sure they want to try and keep fans or even get fans back on side. This is huge for them, because if they get this wrong, like I said at the start of the video, they're going to burn even more bridges and connections with fans. Away tickets is another thing. Of course, in the Championship, there isn't an away season ticket cap. So in theory, Wolves could charge whatever they want. If West Bromwich Albion were coming to Molineux, Wolves could charge them £50 a ticket if they wanted to. However, that would really probably make Wolves fans suffer as and when we went to the Hawthorns, if that's even going to be a fixture next season based on their current form. So I was going to do this video next week. I had something scheduled to talk about the pricing anyway, and this sort of point that came up yesterday on the minutes for the FAB meeting sort of accelerated me doing this video. What we're focusing on here is just a small section of a 2-3 hour meeting between the Fan Advisory Board and Nathan Shei. So as outsiders, we don't know what the vibe of the meeting was like. We don't know the tone of what he was saying. But I want to reiterate, I don't know if Nathan, anyone from the football club, anyone from Fosun Sports Group would be watching this, reiterating the point that this is very, very important. And with the way this club has treated the fans over the last year or two, at a minimum, they need to get this right. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, guys. Hit that like button down below. What sort of price do you think is acceptable as and when Wolves drop down to the Championship next season?